Hey guys, welcome to another Shooter Ready Challenge. This one for the month of July. This is going to be similar to, but yet also different from a previous Shooter Ready Challenge we did. The previous time we did single hand only shooting. We actually did both your primary and also your secondary or support hand only, but those were more focused on the shooting aspect of those, various techniques for doing that and whatnot. This month, we're going to do one-handed draws. So that's going to be the focus of this one, where we are just working on actually drawing the pistol one-handed and putting it into use one-handed as well, assuming that for whatever reason we can't use our support hand. So looking forward to this one with you guys. I got some cool little ways we can, some drills we're going to run, and also some ways we can gather some metrics or some data based on this. So it'll be fun. But before we get too far along, I want to point out to you that our sponsors of Shooter Ready Challenge are Laser App, or the Laser Activated Shot Reporter System, this specifically being the Laser X version, which works on any internet connected device, whether it be a phone, tablet, or computer, regardless of platform. And it's awesome because this is the primary tool that I use to actually put together data for my dry fire practice. And that, I think, is one of the huge opportunities that a lot of people miss out on in dry fire. Our other sponsor of Shooter Ready Challenge is Next Level Training and their popular SIRT pistols. I have here the P320 model, because this most closely resembles my actual P320 that I carry. So it's going to be a great tool to use today. I am using it with a weapon mounted light because that makes it compatible with the holster that I'm using. So we appreciate Next Level Training and their SIRT pistols for sponsoring the Shooter Ready Challenge, as well as Laser App, or the Laser Activated Shot Reporter System. You can check out the Laser X and the Laser Classic versions of the software at laserapp.com, LASRAPP.com. And you can check out Next Level Training at nextleveltraining.com. Now, one final thing, don't forget to sign up for our Shooter Ready Challenge newsletter, because we pull from all of those that are signed up for our monthly newsletter. That's really all that is that's the way we notify you when the next Shooter Ready Challenge is published. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, number one, you may be missing out on Shooter Ready Challenge when they go live, but you are definitely missing out on an opportunity to win free gear. We used to do some different giveaways for those that participated in Shooter Ready Challenge. Now the way we're doing that is, if you sign up for the newsletter, you are automatically entered in each month for a drawing for free gear. So make sure you're doing that. You don't want to miss out. Let's get into this month's Shooter Ready Challenge. So I told you this is going to be one-handed draw and shoot. Obviously, we're going to do some shooting here because we need something for the software to pick up, and we want to gather some metrics. So, one-handed draw. What I'm going to do is cover with you some basic techniques, a couple different approaches for achieving the one-handed draw. Now, this should be adapted based on how you actually carry your gun, but whether you're carrying from traditional IWB, appendix, or somewhere else, you need to be thinking about how you're going to access the gun with just one hand. Now, traditionally, when I'm doing a two-handed draw, it's very simple and straightforward, because I can use one hand to clear garments, and I can use the other hand to immediately assume the grip on the pistol, and that makes for a very efficient draw stroke. Like this, right? So that's all fine and well, but what if we don't have the use of this support hand? We still got to defeat the garment. If we're wearing an open shirt, we're going to peel it away this way. If we're wearing a shirt from where we got to clear it from the bottom, we're going to peel it away this way, or something to that effect. If you're carrying in a different position, you just need to figure out how you're going to do that. I'm going to give you a couple of simple tips on how to do this today, and especially from the appendix position. But these similar tips I'm going to show you today, or techniques, they'll be similar between both appendix and traditional IWB or 3, 4, 5 o'clock carry positions. So how are we going to do this? Well, first, let's talk about two different techniques. One would be to simply grasp the shirt material or the jacket or whatever it is just over top of where the gun's located, pull that up, and then basically you're going to pinch that against the body as you then drop the hand back down to the gun. Okay, that'd be probably the more common technique because that's what people just have, learned to do. I'm actually going to borrow a little bit from Mike Sieklander and how he teaches the draw stroke process, especially from concealment. And he actually teaches using both hands every time, whether you're using, even though you have two hands available, he actually teaches a two-hand garment clearing technique. And that's totally cool. I think it can be done very, very fast, but I think no matter what you do, it'll always be just slightly less efficient than clearing with one hand and grasping the pistol immediately with the other hand. But he has some valid points as to why he teaches that. Number one is just ensuring you actually get the garment cleared. What if one of these hands misses, but the other one actually grabs it, and vice versa? So, there's some valid reasons there to that. Now, part of that two-handed technique, that's what we're going to borrow from because he uses a similar approach when he's doing the one-hand technique. And so I've really learned to adopt this. So contrary to what I just showed you, where you're just basically grasping where the hand naturally wants to rest on the body, which is basically in line with where my gun is, and then just drawing that up and then dropping the hand straight back down. I think of this as more of it's a slight circular motion. So I'm actually coming towards the midline of the body, maybe even slightly across, and I'm grasping the garment, bringing it up, and kind of somewhat towards the armpit, and then pinching that material against the body, and then dropping and driving the hand to the gun, and then drawing it out. So that's the technique. And I don't know why, but for me personally, this has just proven to be a little bit more consistent and a little bit faster. It seems to be a little more of an efficient movement for me to just kind of do this sort of, you see that kind of circular motion there, and I'm just kind of completing this circle, and that brings the hand back down to the gun, whereas this one's more of a up and stop and then back down to the gun. I don't know whether there's anything to that, but that's just how I think of it. And as I've tested this, that seems to be what has held true for me personally in terms of selecting the more efficient technique. Now, here's the other thing. The other reason I kind of like this technique is it works no matter what garments you are wearing, because if I'm wearing a shirt like this, I'm going to attack it at the middle, and then I'm again bringing it, or at least I'm starting to bring it towards the armpit, and then pinching and driving the hand to the gun, okay? If I had an open shirt garment type setup, or a jacket that's open like this as well, again, attacking at the middle, eventually our hands are going to get to where that jacket is, and we can peel that away and drive the hand to the gun. So attacking at the middle for me seems to always work regardless of the upper body garment that I am actually wearing, or if I'm wearing multiple layers of garments. For instance, like a shirt that's actually over top of the gun, but also a jacket, again, attacking at the midpoint and then driving that up towards the armpit helps bring both the shirt and the jacket or the coat both away from the gun and clearing that space open. Now, you can use fingers to attack the garment with and achieve a grasp. You can use the thumb, make an L shape with your hand and attack it with the thumb and drive it that way. That works pretty well for a lot of people as well. Or you can do the pinch technique, where basically, the way I think of this one is I actually attack my belly button. My belly button's right here, my thumb goes there, the fingers slap the body and grasp the material and do so like that. I don't like that one quite as well for situations where I may have multiple layers of garments or a jacket over top of a shirt. So when we are talking about multi-layered clothing for a one-handed draw, I do find that coming to the base of the garments, wherever those may be, and then coming up seems to work pretty well. Some people's criticisms of that is that, well, the hem of your shirt may be different lengths depending on the shirt. That could be, and that's something you want to explore and at least try out or test if that's going to be an issue for you. Most of my shirts tend to be within an inch or two of each other, and I'm initially attacking at a point that's low enough that I pretty much always am grasping the bottom of the shirt or garment, regardless of how long they actually are. But it's something you're going to want to test so that you know you're not going to have an issue where you always learn to come to a certain point, but then that day that you need to actually rely upon this, your shirt's actually a little bit longer and it may foul you up a little bit. So anyway, there's some context there for you to consider, but the basis of what we're going to be doing today is attacking. We could do both techniques. We can come here and test that and put it on the shot clock, or we can attack it in this circular fashion like I've talked about and that I prefer, and see. There may or may not be a lot of measurable difference here today. I don't know. It's been a while since I've used this other technique because, again, I've adopted the other one. So here's what we're going to do though. We are going to use a single target. This is a 1/3 scale USPSA target that's printed. Free targets at concealedcarry.com/print targets. So you can print one out just the same. I have a hit zone drawn over this target that basically is covering the C zone of the USPSA target within the software here. That's close enough for my purposes here today. I'm not looking for super precise shots. I'm just looking for reasonable hits, good, decent hits in that A and C zone area, while I'm primarily testing the speed of these different techniques. Now, I don't care whether you use your support hand or not on the reholster. Certainly is fine. I mean, as far as we're really concerned about the draw, but if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty and the details of this all, I could just show you really quick that after you've drawn and used the pistol, one technique that we can use if for whatever reason, and this is not a bad thing to learn, if for whatever reason this hand is completely incapacitated and we cannot use it to help and assist reholstering our gun, then what I will do is I'll flag my thumb of my firing hand about like so, okay? And then I'm going to come in and use my thumb to hook the garments much in the same way as what we've done up to this point. See how that works? And then I'm able to just put the gun right back into the holster. So that's a simple technique to use, just flagging that thumb, hooking the garments, putting the gun back in the holster. Of course, doing it safely, doing it carefully, all that stuff, right? One final thing before we get into the first drill is if you are coming from 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 4:30, that type of position on or behind the hip, you may be wondering about this a little bit more, but I want to just show you that when we attack, so just imagine, in fact, I can even temporarily, this is a SIRT pistol, so this is completely safe to do, but let's just say that my gun is there, okay? I can show you now how by the same technique, I'm going to come in here, attack the middle, I'm going to bring this to the armpit in a bit more exaggerated fashion when I'm carrying in this position, and you'll see how that automatically clears where the gun is carried in that 3, 4, 5 o'clock type position. All right. And when I carry on the hip through OWB or IWB, I prefer to be as close to 3 o'clock as possible. I don't really like getting behind the hip too much, but everybody does things a little bit differently for various reasons. But I have found for any of those positions, attacking at the middle, driving that garment in the hand up to the armpit does really well at clearing that out of the way. And the same is true when we are clearing garments with the support hand and we are coming from that IWB location. We can come here to the middle and swing the hand, the support hand, all the way up to the armpit, and you'll see how that clears the garment out of the way. Again, it works very well for a variety of different garment types. This is another great example of where Mike Seeklander's technique works really well, because it's a little bit easier to use that primary hand to drive up to that armpit location and then drive the hand down to the gun. Anyway, just helps you be a little bit more sure you're actually going to get the garment out of the way. Decide what you're going to do, what works best for you, play with the different techniques, test them out, practice them, get some reps with them, and then pick the one that you think is going to work best for you. Now, part of what can help us pick the best technique for us, I've got that light in there, so it's hooking on the waistband, there we go. Part of what we can use to aid us in that decision is how important or how much are we going to weight the the speed at which we can access the gun and get our first shots on target, okay? For me, that's an important factor, so I can use the data from the Laser X software to inform those decisions, those choices. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna do a couple iterations of one-handed draws. We're gonna use that more classic technique where this is more of just a straight up pinch and then straight down to the gun type technique. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this going.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
And we'll just time these out. Kind of a funky grip I got on it, but the time was 1:48, still a decent, respectable time. I would say anything under 1.5 is especially speedy, one-handed only from the draw like this, from a concealed draw. So that actually pleasantly surprises me a little bit. All right, let's do it again. I've got a reset zone right there.
Stand by.
152. Got a little snag there in the shirt. You know, I've tried to pinch it, but still got kind of hung up in there somewhere. That's fine. You know, when you experience that, just push through it. All right, you'll see that if we replayed that video, you would see how the shirt was kind of caught in there, and I just pushed through it, and it's going to pull it out. This is a perfect thing to practice, I should mention, in dry fire, okay, because obviously there's a potential risk there that if you get hung up in the shirt, that conversely it could rip the gun out of your hand. It shouldn't, right, provided you actually have a proper grip on the gun, but it's certainly possible. So it's something you want to be mindful of with a live gun. So this is a perfect thing to practice in dry fire and experience those types of garment clearing. I don't know if I'd call that a full-on failure or not, but just something to be mindful of. All right, let's go again.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Got to make your first shot count. So that was a 195. Let's throw that one out because I just did not aim that one very good. Dead A zone, dead center A zone. That was a 135. That's my best one yet. So if I was averaging these out, take the 135, 148, 152, or, you know, kind of in that 145 range as an average. We could obviously do this 10 times, 20 times, get a little bit more data, get a little bit better quality data. But let's just work with that here today. So now we're going to go to that circular type technique and test that out a few times.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
That's a 123. It was a little bit sloppy on the actual shot, but it was in there, so we will accept that.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
127.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Again, missed my first shot. So we'll be fair with ourselves, I guess. Since we threw one out the last one, we'll throw that one out.
Shooter ready.
Do it one more time.
Stand by.
And that's a 122. So we're seeing some pretty consistent performance with the circular technique that, like I told you, now this could be part of it could be that this is what I have practiced the most. So it's obviously the most learned. That's going to have an effect on performance. But again, when I was looking at different techniques for a long time, I was using that simply clearing the garment, driving the hand straight down type technique. That's what I was more familiar with at one time. And then I started doing this one and it performed better for me. So that's why I adopted that technique. So we're averaging around 1.24, which is pretty spicy. That's pretty much a 1 1/4 second draw speed from one-handed only. What's my usual time with two hands? I'm kind of curious just to see where I'm at today. 105.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
109. Not as good as I thought. Let's see if we can get a 1 second. 0.94. All right, I had to really push it there. Okay, so really what you can see is that I'm adding like 0.2 maybe a quarter second of time just by one-handed drawing the gun and clearing the garment out of the way. That's actually pretty impressive. Now again, you may find similar results with the more classic technique. Use and test what's going to be best for you. All right. Now, I want to throw something else at you just to kind of mix things up. And again, we're using the SIRT pistol here today. Now, if you don't have this capability, then you can go ahead and ignore this drill to some extent. I mean, you could still go through the motions, but what we're going to do here is we're going to incorporate a little bit of movement and multiple shots. Now, not a ton. I'm going to do like 1 to 2 steps to the side here as we're drawing the pistol, and then we're going to fire, let's do 4 shots, just kind of almost like a moving bill drill of sorts, but not quite a full bill drill. And part of that's because of the room limitations of where I'm working here today. So this is just to kind of mix things up and give me something else to work on. And now that I've spent some time practicing the one-handed draw, we want to incorporate another element to test that a little bit further, to add a little bit additional stress. So what are we going to do here? All right, so I'll hit the start. I'm going to step about here, and my goal is to end up close to the wall over there. And once we clear the garment and begin shooting, we're going to shoot 4 shots, preferably while we're moving. And we'll just see how we do. So here we go.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Oh, that was 5. I was going for a full bill drill. So first shot was a 147, a little bit slower than what I just practiced a moment ago. Again, I was going for the circular type approach. Splits were around a quarter second a piece. Total time 2.44. Let's do it again.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Now I shot the 4 shots I originally planned, which we can look at the previous string of data, and that's why LaserX software is so powerful, including in dry fire, because I have my strings of shots right here. So before I shot 5 shots when I meant to shoot 4, I can look here that my 4th shot last time was a 2.23. Now my 4th shot was a 2.19, but my first shot time was a 1.53, whereas last time was a 1.47. Close, somewhat consistent. But I still ended up with a less overall time, so that means my splits were a bit faster this second go. So what we're basically seeing here is that by adding some movement, it's also adding about a quarter second of time to getting the draw complete and the gun up on target and the first shot fired. And that kind of makes sense. But these are good things to know and to understand. Now let's do it one more time. I'm going to go from left to right, and let's see if it's similar or different. And that time was faster, actually. Now it could be a part of the just natural progression of I've done this a couple of times now, getting warmed up. Things are getting a little bit easier and smoother. But we had our first shot time of 142. Splits were similar to our other runs, so we ended up at a 2.10. And let's do from left to right again.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
And that was my fastest one yet for sure. 4 shots, total time 192. First shot time was a 129. And the splits were similar, except for that last shot was actually a tad faster. And a little bit sloppier, I might add. I noticed that as I was calling the shot. So anyway, just some different things that you can work on, and I would certainly encourage you to do this. I mean, realize that there's a variety of reasons why you might not use or be able to use your support hand in defensive shooting. And so you should be very familiar with, I would say this is actually a more important skill than knowing how to reload efficiently, because it's more likely that one-handed shooting will be necessary in a self-defense situation you might find yourself in. We see that evidenced in a number of actual shootings that are captured on camera. There's far, infinitely more examples of people having to draw and shoot one-handed than there are of people actually having to reload during a gunfight. So that should, I think, paint the picture of just how important of a skill this is to learn and get the repetitions in. And that's why we do dry fire. It's all about the repetitions, right? So just in this very simple shooter ready challenge segment here today, I've given you a couple of very simple ideas, including some technique-based ones of things you can do in your dry fire using LaserX software and things like the SIRT pistol from Next Level Training to enhance your dry fire and help yourself improve. I hope you'll do that this month in this Shooter Ready Challenge. Don't forget, go to our sponsors and their websites, laserapp.com, LASRAPP.com. Check out the awesome laser software. Also, nextleveltraining.com, where you can pick yourself up a SIRT pistol or other training products that they offer as well on their site. And a final call out, don't forget to sign up for our monthly newsletter at shooterreadychallenge.com. Sign up so that you're included in the drawing for free prizes. Thanks so much for watching the July edition of Shooter Ready Challenge. We'll see you back here next month. Now get to work.